welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I apologize. I'm going to sound a bit congested. I do have a cold. So my next two videos are going to be, I'm going to sound very nasally. Hopefully I won't gross you out and sneeze and icky stuff come out. I've been constantly blowing my nose, and it's a pain. I mean, I think this... I don't know what's more annoying, the dry cold one or the one where, like this, where it's all, like, I mean, like, when it's a dry cold, I feel like you can't really breathe. I mean, you can breathe, but it's, like, it's more irritating, while this one is, or it's a different kind of irritation, I should say. While this one is a little more, like, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that and apologize. So, I want to do a review for you guys. So, a few weeks ago, I read the Rossetti letter by Christy Phillips. It does have a sequel that I'm hoping to get on Kindle because I've decided, even though as much as I enjoyed this, I'm going to donate it to back to the Outpost Bookshop. And then just get a sequel on Kindle, because I don't want to have a physical copy of the sequel, but then not have this one. I would want to donate these together if I was gonna purchase a physical copy of the sequel. So I would feel like, oh, I should keep this one, and it's gonna, it's clutter. So I'm just gonna get the other one, the sequel, on Kindle. But this is actually based on, so this is a dual timeline story, and the historical timeline is actually based on something, I mean, most of the story itself is, I think, made up, but it is based off of actual history, like the background event, did happen. But the individual story, the personal story of this character, Rossetti, isn't real, isn't true. But anyway, so in the present day storyline, we have a PhD student, Lucy, what's her name? Claire Donovan. I was about to call her Lucy King, but Lucy King is from another book I read last year. But Claire Donovan, she is working on a dissertation that is going to be, her theory is that this woman, this famous courtesan, Alessandra Rossetti, that she had somehow found out about the Spanish conspiracy, which that's the historical thing that is true. The events of the Spanish conspiracy are true, that this woman found out about it and sent a letter to the Council of Italy, or Venice, the Council of Venice, to warn them of this. And she wants to, but she doesn't have enough information, and she feels like it's not as interesting to the people at the college where she gives her lectures. And she through her friend, her colleague, she gets the opportunity to go to Venice to get more information and to really immerse herself in the world of this woman, Alessandra Rossetti. But unfortunately, she doesn't have a lot of money, so she gets her friend gets she knows this man who he has just remarried, and he and his new wife are going to go on their honeymoon in Paris. But he has a teenage daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, and he kind of doesn't, because it's their honeymoon, he doesn't want her to have to tag along with them. And so he needs his daughter to be chaperoned by someone while he and his new wife are, having their celebration of their marriage and everything. And reluctantly, Claire agrees, because she's thinking, what am I going to do with a teenager? What will I have in common with a teenager? And but she needs, she wants to go on this trip to Venice. This trip is important to her and her dissertation. So she agrees. And of course, we have this very irascible, antagonistic teenager that she's babysitting who, is probably dealing with a lot, wants to spend time with her dad, is kind of frustrated with her parents, and, they're trying to keep from her that her mom shot her dad in the foot in the story. That's a little side note that happens in the story that is revealed in the story. And she doesn't really, because she's a moody teenager, teenage girl, her priority is she wants to go to look at the fashions and stuff like that of Italy, and she doesn't really appreciate the historical aspects, all the architecture and the museums and all the history of this city. And the last thing she wants to do is hang out in the library with Claire. And Claire in Venice, she meets her rival, her academic rival, Andrew Kent. He's a historian and author of a few books, and he's working on a new one that is based on the fact that the Alessandro Rossetti story is not legit, and that it was actually a Venetian conspiracy against Spain to make them look bad. So basically that will disprove Claire's her theory and her thesis. And now I can think of the word. I was trying to think of the word when I was working on my review. Good news is I haven't published this review, so it's the written review. So I will have to edit that. But anyway, and she's basically sets out to get the information she needs to prove that her thesis is still correct. And at the same time, there's a subplot of she meets this handsome Italian man who is very rich. He is a wealthy architect, although when she meets him, she doesn't realize that he's wealthy. And that is actually her and the teenager kind of bond over. Her name is Gwen. They bond over that, and she kind of helps Claire get back on the horse, because Claire is recently got a divorce from her husband, and she's been very focused on her thesis and her work, so she has not been in the dating scene. And her friend was motivated by if she goes to Italy, she might meet some hot, sexy Italian guys. And so the past storyline is the actual story of Alessandra herself, and how she was a girl who lost her fortune because her dad and her brother both died. They were merchants, and she is discovered by this other famous courtesan who teaches her the ways of being a courtesan and educates her, and she ends up she finds herself getting mixed up with these Spanish officials that were possibly involved in this conspiracy, these soldiers, and one of them she starts to fall in love with in the process, and he with her. But she finds about the conspiracy, and she has to decide what to do about it. If she's gonna, to protect Venice, or if she's, how is she gonna protect this man that she loves, and all that jazz. So I had a good time. This was really fun. I love these stories where they have two timelines. I mean, that's why I love Kate Morton so much, because all of her novels do that, where they have dual timelines, and often the historical timeline influences the present day timeline. Although her books, oftentimes, they're not this, like, there is a intimacy between the past timeline and the present day timeline in Kate Morton's books, where the person in the present is connected to the past, or they meet someone from the that is connected to the person in the past. While this one there's a bit of a distance between Claire and Alessandra. Like, she's a historical figure in the story. She's not a real person. That's the part. Her story is not real. The Spanish conspiracy is real. I still don't know if I'm explaining that right, but Claire does feel a kinship to this woman. She wants to you know, find out what really happened to her and in a way get justice for her. And there's an indirect, like, it's not like there's an indirect intimacy between, like, Claire feels drawn to this woman, but but like I said, there's a distance, like if someone is writing a paper on Jane Austen and you're doing all this research about her and you feel a kinship to her, but it's not like you're blood related to her, and it's been like 150 years or more, that time between your time and Jane Austen's time. It's like that. And I love how we go, like I said, I love the timeline, the dual timeline, also because we get to see, I really enjoyed living vicariously through Claire, because I would love to have a reason to do research on a topic in history for like that. I can do that because, that's what I'm trying to do right now, is research without, but do it unprofessionally, as an amateur person, like, because I'm, doing it through reading books and stuff like that. So I can still do it, but in a way where I get the opportunity where I have a reason to go to these famous libraries and do the research and go through all these rare documents and these really old documents and having to worry about, oh, I gotta wear gloves, I gotta be careful. That's why I know there's flaws in Dan Brown books, and there's a lot of good legitimate criticism for Dan Brown's books, but the plots themselves, in Robert Langdon going to these places in Europe, being a professor of symbology, and going on these missions that have to do with like a conspiracy or something, is really cool. So I feel like it's similar to that, where I could do research and read books about these events in history, and maybe one day write an essay, but like doing it's hard to explain, because technically, yes, I could do it. But I wouldn't exactly be able to get the opportunities that Claire does in the story. Like, I can't just, get a trip, make money for a trip to Venice on a whim. Not that she could. She still had to, find a way to she had to be a chaperone for a teenage girl. A very moody teenage girl. And, there is a little bit of romance. Like I said, she meets this handsome Italian guy, although he's not what he seems. He has a bit of, there's baggage that goes with him. He has a judgmental mother that doesn't think Claire is good enough for her son. But I actually, he was handsome and charming, but, I kind of liked Andrew Kent better. As far as the males in the story, even though he was arrogant and very rude to Claire, and but he was also charming in his own way. He was awkward, and yes, he was a snob, and like I said, very, very rude to Claire, like an arrogant ass to her. But he seemed more interesting to me. And I kind of like, academics, or at least guys that are interested in learning about, the world, or, learning history and study, academic types. And I think those characters are more interesting, and I think something's that, I'm wondering if there's gonna be something between him and Claire in the sequel, possibly. But he does have a girlfriend in the book, who is a talk show host, and she's glamorous and beautiful, and has the sexy Italian accent, but she's also a vain, spoiled self bitch. And it really, so Claire gets invited to Italian architect's house, Giancarlo's house, that's his name, and, because he likes Claire, and, he's got some, baggage. He's interested in her. But then when she gets there, it turns out that his dad, I think, works at the college where they're lecturing in Venice, and so he's inviting all the speakers to his house, and turns out Andrew Kent is there, and so is the little girlfriend, little Miss. I only have 3 degrees, including an honorary degree at the College of Venice. I ran a talk show and think I'm better than everyone else. I just did not like her. I want to smack her. I want to slap her. And so Claire gets invited, and, because, Giancarlo's inviting her, Gwen's encouraging her to go and dress up, and, it could be like a date. And and it basically, most of the dinner is them bashing Americans and talking about how far superior and how more classier they are. And it's just, gotta roll my eyes at that stuff. And, I mean, on the one hand, some of their criticisms of Americans are very valid, but I still, I feel like I'm an American. I feel like as an American, I want to protect and defend my country in, like, maybe not in the battlefield sense, but in a, like, okay, there are very intelligent, very academically driven people that, I just roll my eyes at that part. And I felt so bad because here's Claire saying there awkwardly, and Arnie, feeling judged by Giancarlo's mom. And then you have these people from these other countries, these Italians, and then Andrew Kent in his way too, making her feel bad about her own country and thinking that their academics aren't as superior as like Italian academics or as British academics, and they're just a young little baby country, and which we are compared to. I mean, we are having our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. So yeah, I kind of roll my eyes at that chapter. And I'm sorry. I mean, I feel bad for Gwen, because she's kind of caught in the middle of her parents' divorce, and she wants to spend time with her dad, and she's a teenager, so she's going to be moony and hormonal, and, she's a teenage girl, so she's going to care about, her physical appearance and wearing, and, and Italian fashion is great, is beautiful, but I still I'm a nerd, so part of me was, rolling my eyes at her attitude towards history and lack of knowledge, and she kind of got on my nerves a lot of times throughout, but eventually she did grow on me, and and like I said, I get where she's coming from. She's hormonal, she's caught in her parents, she's kind of, I think she's a little spoiled, and so she's very much struggling, and she's just starting to, she's a teenager. So, yeah, I get it. She's a struggling teenager who's caught in the middle of her parents' divorce and having to adjust to her dad remarrying. And, of course, she's going to, defend her mom, and she's very loyal to her mom. And we, of course, don't know, like Claire, we don't know a lot about what's going on in that family, because that's not the main plot focus. But I still am not going to lie and say I didn't get annoyed with Gwen. Found her incredibly annoying, but like I said, she grew on me, and then I kind of felt bad for her, not just her family stuff, but also her boyfriend drama. I felt sympathy for her, and her and Claire start to connect, and she does start to show interest in what Claire is researching. I think that was really cool. I think it's cool when a younger person, because a young teenager actually starts to show interest in this kind of stuff and begins to appreciate it more and wants to learn about it and take it seriously. I always like when a teenager has that turnaround, when they start to, realize that history is important and is worth looking into, and it shouldn't be dismissed. So, as far as the past storyline, it was really cool to be in old Venice. I mean, it was cool to be in present day Venice, which I have actually been there before. We spent a week in there when we took a Mediterranean cruise. That's where we met. The ship was in Venice, and I do have a mask that I got from there. Although it's one of those ones with it has a handle, so I can't stay on my it won't stay on my face, and I wish I had got one like that instead of one that I had to hold. But still, a really cool looking mask. It's green, like a light green, like pea green, I think, or maybe lighter than that. But so that was, and I want to go back. I want to go back someday, but I want to visit other parts of Venice as well. And it was really cool to be back in Venice and to really immerse yourself in that city and that world and that environment. Just experience it. And we saw Alessandra's world as a courtesan, and so there is some intimate scenes, there's some sex scenes. There's not a lot of graphic ones, but there is one scene in the book where the other courtesan, the older woman, I cannot remember her name, but she's trying to educate Alessandra. So she has her hide in a closet and watch her and one of her clients having some fun. So that was a little more descriptive. But it's done in a little more sensual, romantic, flowery kind of way. Not like a play-by-play, really rough stuff, but just very romantic and, like I said, sensual. I can't think of another word other than sensual kind of way. So it is in there, but that's, I think, the most vivid described one, I think. I mean, like I said, it's been a few weeks, so I don't remember if the other ones were as descriptive. But there are other ones, and like I said, there is a little romance. There's more romance with Alessandra than with Claire. With Claire, it's more flirtatious stuff, more flirting and playfulness. And while this one, although there is flirting and playfulness, but this has, like I said, more sex scenes in her story, because Alessandra is a courtesan. Like, think of Moulin Rouge, Satine from Moulin Rouge. Same kind of job, except without the theater stuff. And she does get, romantic. Like I said, she becomes romantically involved in one of her, he's actually not a client, though. He's someone that showed up and he was a messenger type figure. And that was his role. And so he wasn't an actual client. In fact, there is some tension there because they become, into each other and everything. And he is not too crazy about her profession. Because he starts to really want to be with her and stuff like that, but not want to share her with other men. But I mean, he doesn't get abusive or controlling. He's just a little judgy. He's just a bit judgy about it, and makes some kind of rude comments, and like I said, judges her for it. So that's not great. But then but yeah, it was well, anyway, it was so much fun to see it, and I could really just see this world, this vivid world, these beautiful homes residing on these canals and traveling through Venice via these gondolas and taking rides, and it's so much fun. And I did ride gondolas when we went there. I think it's been a while, but I think we did. But also, seeing the modern version of it was really cool too, and being in the famous library with Claire. I cannot remember what the library is called. Does it say on the back? Okay, no, it does not say it. It doesn't say what the library is called. I do not remember. But it's one of the famous, like the Baudelaire Library. Now, I do believe book 2 is going to take place at Cambridge. All I'm going to, does take place at Cambridge is all I'm going to say. That might be a spoiler, but it's too late now. Can't take it back, so. But it was really, like, I love books set. I mean, I love being able to explore other countries that, it's rare to be able to visit those places for me. Then I get to actually go there via a book, at least. It's the next best thing, I think, is a book or a movie, even. When I would love to see this adapted. I think this would be a really great movie. A really fun movie. But anyway, I really enjoyed this. I don't know what else to say. I had a good time. Like I said, there's romance. You get to go to you're in Venice. It's for people who love, stories about someone learning about the past and how the past history can, influence the present. And it's just, there's a bit of romance in the story. And I guess that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I had a good time. I don't know if I can't remember. I would have to look. I don't remember if I gave it 3 or 4 stars. But anyway, this was a really good and beautiful story. And like I said, I'm hoping to read the sequel at some point soon. I don't know when. But like I said, if I get on Kindle, I'm going to I need to finish reading my current read on my Kindle, which is War and Ruin by Ryan Cahill. I'm still working my way through that one, but I'm taking a break from that. And I'll explain that more in my next video where I update you guys. So I want to get that one read, and I don't know if Gravity's Rainbow will get finished anytime soon. So that's why I went ahead to War and Ruin. But anyway, so that is the Rossetti letter by Christy Phillips. And those are my thoughts on that book, and I hope you guys take an interest in it if you like historical fiction, and I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!